Ladies and gentlemen, you're about to be scrutinied.
Hello, this is Jeff Scrutiny from LaBar Woods. You're listening to Smart Talk. The Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki starts in 3, 2, 1.
Now Peggy's going to want that every week.
And you should expect it every week.
But listen, it's a contract, isn't it?
Oh, sure.
We've got a contract,
You'll
no matter
bet.
how small it is.
Hey, wait. What does this say here, this thing here?
Oh, that's the usual clause. That's in every contract. That just says, if any of the parties participating in this contract are shown not to be in their right mind, the entire agreement is automatically nullified.
Well, I don't know.
It's all right. That's in every contract. That's what they call a sanity clause.
You can't fool me. There ain't no sanity clause.
It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. Green, gardening, and environment radio. Flavored with a dash of humor. Welcome to intelligent, irreverent talk about plants and the planet they grow on. Your questions, comments, and participation are always welcome at 877-711-5611.
Good planets are hard to find. Temperate zones and tropic climes. And true currents and thriving seas. Wind blowing through breathing trees. Strong ozone and safe sunshine. Well, good planets are hard to find. Good planets are in demand.
This hour is brought to you by Bartlett Tree Experts. Every tree needs a champion. Go to bartlett.com.
Jet streams, perfect air.
And here they are, Peggy Malecki and Mike Nowak.
Well, good planets are in demand. Right.
Oh, let's try that again. Okay. All right.
It's Christmas!
All right. That's what we have to bring in here because I know I've been playing holiday stuff for a while, but this is the actual Christmas show as we lurch into the holidays here. Full tilt boogie with no snow. Just holy smokes! It's going to be 50.
Sun's out.
Yeah.
Although, if they opened up the blinds over there, we might see that sunshine out the window.
I want to make it look like we're in a cave here, and we are ready to go.
Woohoo!
Because now I am going to apologize at the outset here to the folks listening on our network. So if you're in Rapid City, or if you're in State College, PA, or if you're in Missouri. If you're in Las Vegas,
or wherever you may be,
wherever you're listening. Well, but I'm talking about the folks who get the 1 hour version of the show. You're not going to hear It's a Wonderful Slice of It's a Wonderful Life, which is in the second hour. So that means you got to go to MikeNovak.net or go to the Mike Nowak Show on Facebook. We'll have the podcast up. And we've got a cast of thousands here in the studio. We're going to do It's a Wonderful Life in 10 minutes. Well, it'd be like 12 or maybe 14 minutes. The whole movie. You'll laugh, you'll cry. You'll barf in your bag.
And you'll laugh, and you'll laugh, and you'll laugh.
And so that's an annual tradition on the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. And I looked it up yesterday. Holy smoke, I've been doing this for 30 years.
Wow.
In one form or another. I started the whole thing, and I'll explain it in the second hour when we get to that, or sometime. Basically, I took the movie, I did an audio file of it, and I cut out the non-essential parts, and I boiled it down to 10 minutes and 30 seconds, basically. And then that was on tape, and then I started doing it live. Anyway.
And here we are.
Here we are. But before we get to that, we get actual real gardening today. Grow in the Dark, How to Choose and Care for Low-Light Houseplants by Lisa Eldred Steinkopf. She's on the Skype machine standing by. We're waving to her right now on the Skype. Hi! And you got houseplants? You want to keep them alive? She's the lady to do it. We'll be right back. The Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki.
Okay,
Let's do it. Santa, bring my brother a big old box of rocks. I've been good the whole year, but he's been bad a lot. He's gonna be so sorry when he sees that's all he got. So Santa, bring my brother a big old box of rocks. Santa, I know you're watching and you've seen it.
All right. Welcome back to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki, and believe me, most brothers deserve a big old box of rock. What have you got, cat?
I have no idea what's on this microphone.
Do you have cat hair on your microphone
Something.
screen? I don't even know how that happens. Anyway, welcome to the show. We're so glad you're here on the holiday show. But we needed to do something that was actually real radio, that was kind of serious.
Real gardening.
Real gardening. I'll give it a ding. So we're going to go to Livonia, Michigan, which is my old neck of the woods because I grew up in Detroit. And we're going to talk to Lisa Eldred Steinkopf. She's just written a new book, Grow in the Dark, How to Choose and Care for Low-Light Houseplants. Good morning, Lisa.
Good morning. How are you?
Okay, and we got our Skype working and everything. This is so good. I understand this is an adventure for you to be on the Skype machine.
Yes, I'm like, oh man, what is? I had to make sure that I moved plants around so no dead ones were behind me.
You know, it's so funny. You should say that because I take photos in my yard all the time and various places around the house. And then you take the photo and you look at it and you go, oh my goodness, that plant's half dead behind it. Well, how did I do that?
Exactly.
And you know, we're the gardening folks and we're supposed to get that right. But let me tell you something. Not all plants look perfect all the time. Do they, Lisa?
Oh no. If they do, then you've obviously just bought it and you've had it for 5 minutes. Or you're really, really good.
Yes.
Mine, I was just picking dead ends off my fern. Then I decided to move it so I put my friendship plant up instead. It looked a little better.
Plants have bad hair days as well.
Yes, that's right.
They do indeed. And folks need to, those of you listening live and those who want to catch the show later on, the stream on Facebook should look at Lisa. Hey, Ellie? Ellie? Peggy was holding up a product placement here. We've got a copy of the book, so we're going to get a photo.
Ellie's getting ready to post to Instagram.
With the Santa hat. So Peggy's posing with her Santa hat and a copy of the book, Grow in the Dark. And I was very excited to see this when this showed up because I always have plant questions about my indoor plants. Now, I can't compare with you, Lisa, because there was a Detroit... was it Detroit Free Press?
Yes.
Story that said you had 200 plants on your first floor alone. Okay.
Wow.
I'm not even in your league. All right. But people think I'm nuts because in the summer, I've got probably 40 plants that I schlep outside and then schlep them back in the fall. And some of them are quite heavy. I have an 8-foot tall Schefflera that absolutely adores being outside. And it probably weighs, I don't know, 80 pounds. It's pretty heavy. It's really massive. And it's in a terracotta pot. And as you know, if you start moving those around, now you got issues.
Mm-hmm.
You've got...
That's right.
You've got to get it up and down the stairs and everything when you're doing that.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Well, I can't, I've had back surgery, so I can't schlep all those plants. So I don't really take anything outside. It would take me a month to get them out, and then they'd be out for a few weeks, and I'd have to start working to bring them back in before they all froze.
Well, here's the problem. I have to, because I live in a very dark home. It's an old 130-year-old home, and we have mitigated the light. I was looking at your tips for getting more light into your home, and that's part of what the book is all about, is how do you adapt, and how do you get your plants to adapt to lower light levels. And one of the ways is to get low light plants, right?
Right. Yes. I know it's really all about the right plant in the right place. If you don't have enough light, if you have, a dark corner, don't stick the highest light fiddly fig like they do on every program on TV in that dark corner and expect it to live. You've got to find a plant for the place that you have.
But people don't know which ones are the low light plants and which are the highlight plant, except for, as you mentioned in the book, succulents. That's kind of a no-brainer, but you could look at a ZZ plant and argue that it's a succulent, and that goes in the dark.
It's true. And I tell you what, I really shouldn't tell people. I tell people you could almost put the ZZ plant in a closet, but please don't. It can take such low light, and it's still, it will stretch. It will not be every plant that's in really low light is not going to probably look as good as it would, if it was in a little bit higher light. But a ZZ plant it's amazing how little light it can take. And what's nice is, like you said, it's pretty succulent. Its roots are really big and fleshy. So it's also I don't have to water it as much plant. So it's a win-win. I can put it in the low light, and I don't have to water it as much. Plus, any plant in low light doesn't need as much water as a plant in higher light. So
exactly. However, with ZZ plant, I'm supposed to be one of the pros here. I can't tell you how many ZZ plants I've killed by overwatering. And
right. Yes, definitely.
And it's about, so I have, my latest ZZ plant is doing very well. Mm-hmm. One of the lessons I learned, the last time I tried to transplant a ZZ plant, I killed it. And it just went, and you talk about watering first before you move it. So I didn't water it at all. I didn't water it before I moved it. I didn't water it after I moved it. I just moved it to the new pot, and then I let it sit there for a few weeks to get acclimated to it. And then I started slowly bringing in some water, and it's doing great.
But everything works for everybody differently. I always tell everybody that I don't know everything. And if I did, wow, that would be great. So many people amaze me with things they tell me, and I'm like, really? That worked? And I'm always surprised. Plants are very adaptable. That's the good thing.
All right,
I was going to say, I think my ZZ plant, if I give it literally a quarter cup of water every couple months, and it's doing fabulously.
Yeah.
It's sitting in an eastern window and happy as can be.
Well, that brings up a good point, and I will tell you something later. I don't want to monopolize the conversation here, Lisa, but later I will tell you a story before we go about an experiment I'm doing with one of my plants in the house. But Peggy brings up a really good point, which is, she said, eastern exposure. And one of the things you talk about in your book are exposures that your plants have, and it really makes a difference whether it's an eastern exposure, a southern, a western, or even a northern exposure. So would you quickly go through the difference of those?
Yes. I sometimes I'm kind of sarcastic in my talks that I have, and it's like, they're like, which way, because we own a garden center, and we've asked people, which way do you face? In outdoor plants, can I sell you a azalea? Can I sell you a highlight, viburnum? And they're like, it faces the road. Wow. Okay. So,
and which way does the road go?
Which way does your house face? If the sun is coming up in the morning when you're drinking your coffee and the sun is on your face, it's probably east.
You know what you need to play when you go to those talks is play the REM song, "Stand in the place where you are, now face north. Think about direction, wonder why you haven't before." And
I love that. I'm not that adventurous, probably. But yes, that's true. And if it comes in all day, you're in the south sun. If it only comes in the afternoon, it's facing west. And if you never get any sun, like in your windows hardly at all, it's north, right? And you also have to take into account how close is the house next door to you? Because a lot of, if you live in an apartment building, it could be, a few feet away, and it's blocking every bit of sun there is. Is there a tree outside? Maybe you do have a south window, but if there's an evergreen tree outside, it may only be like an eastern exposure. So figure out which way you face, how much light you have, and what plant can live in that light, because you have to offer it.
And is it summer or winter? Because the light's going to be different how it comes in.
Right. In the winter, a south sun here in the northern hemisphere is going to come in and further into the room than it does in the summer. I mean, it only goes into your room maybe a couple feet because it's so high in the summer. And then you may have to maybe you want to move your north plants over to the south window if you can, or near the south window in the winter, and it won't probably hurt them, and it will help them because it's getting more light.
After having been in my home now for 19 years, I can chart the sun's path. And what's really good to think about if you're trying to grow plants indoors or out is the path of the sun. And you know that at the solstice, it's pretty much going to be straight overhead, or actually Yeah, well, it sets in the east and rises in the west. We have east-west streets in Chicago. So spring solstice,
Equinox.
equinox, sorry, spring equinox and fall equinox. The sun sets right at the end of the street or rises right at the end of the street in Chicago, which is really kind of cool. Not good if you're driving, but otherwise. But one of the things that happens in an eastern and a western exposure that you mentioned in the book also is that because it's rising and setting, the rays come farther into the house, and I don't think a lot of people think about that.
So yeah, it does come further in the room. So in my east window, I have plants. Probably I'm looking at it because I'm sitting in my west window behind me. 4 or 5 feet into the room, and they're doing fine because that sun is coming in on that angle and hitting those plants. Where the south sun in the summer, it literally the light's only like 2 feet or maybe even a foot into your house. So you really have to put the plants close. And then the sun in the west, it shines in a lot too, and it's a lot harsher sun. It's a hotter sun in the afternoon, so you have to consider that as well.
Can I ask a really, really dumb question?
Uh-oh. There's no dumb question.
Why is it hotter it's still the same sun, it's still the same distance. No. Why is it hotter in the afternoon than in the morning? The air, what?
You think I'm going to know that? I have no idea. It just is. It's a harsher sun. It's hotter in this. It's just, I don't know.
I've always wondered about that. I know that outside, the heat has been building all day. So when you get those direct rays in the afternoon, yes, I understand why it's hotter outdoors. Indoors, if you're controlling the temperature, I don't understand why the sun would be hotter coming in from the west.
You know what? Maybe it isn't. It seems like it is, though. It seems like it's a harsher, hotter sun. The windows, closer to the windows, it's hotter. It's beating down on my house. It just seems hotter.
You've experimented with plants for years, so your knowledge from this, your experience tells you that they get more sun or they react differently to a western exposure than they do to an eastern exposure. So obviously there's some truth to it. I was wondering what the science is behind that.
Yes, and I never thought about that, but I wouldn't probably put like an African violet. It might do okay on a west window because it kind of is the same light as the east, but boy, that might get a little too hot for it in the afternoon. So I just don't.
So here it is in the third week in December. My African violet is blooming, so I must be doing something right.
Yes, it's probably had enough light all summer and all fall, and it's like going to give you some flowers.
It is. Yep. It's a treat.
Again, mine's in an eastern window, and it's blooming.
Yeah. Yes. So there you go. Although they can be tricky too, which takes us to, we've talked a little bit about light, and we've got like a minute and 3/4 here. Let's start on watering, because you talk about lack of watering and too much watering are the chief causes of plant mortality. I would argue that it's too much watering is the chief cause of plant mortality.
It is too much watering. But I tell everybody, like it's hard to do this, and I didn't realize it until many years into growing plants, is that every plant is going to be watered the same. So when you water a plant, I want water to run all the way through it and come out the bottom hole. Mm-hmm. The difference is how long before you water it again. You may not water your succulent or cactus again for months or a month or 2 months, but you may water your fern or your peace lily, in the same week again. So it depends on, obviously it depends on how much light it's getting. If you have like you said, a low light plant is going to less light, less water, because they're not using it. They're not photosynthesizing as much, so they're not using that water as much. So you have to be careful, but always water it till it runs out the bottom. A drainage hole is number one to me. You have to have a drainage hole, and don't tell me that you can't have one in your plant, because I can do it in any container. I have a diamond tip drill bit, and there's a hole going in it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to try to mess around with trying to figure out if it needs water, if it doesn't need water, and then it's floating in water, and no.
I'll bet you got a Sawzall too. All right.
Well,
that is Lisa Eldred Steinkopf. Her book is Grow in the Dark, How to Choose and Care for Low-Light Houseplants. We got much more about this when we come back. It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. Oh, no. That's probably, I wonder if you're turning it up? Okay. Are we better, Facebook? Okay.
Christine, Nancy.
They're turning
Karen?
they've got the big crank in their. All right. Hey, listen, I'm going to play something now that I started last year. This was something that I put together for Chicagoland Gardening magazine, and unfortunately, it bit the dust this year, and that's just really sad. But I'm okay. There
That
it
was
is.
Chicagoland Gardening.
Pardon?
Chicagoland Gardening.
I didn't bite the dust. No,
No, what you put together didn't bite the dust.
No,
Chicagoland Gardening.
And I wrote this last year, so I thought, let's bring it out one more time and play this for the holidays. We'll make it a tradition until people get sick of it. So here we go. Marley was dead, to begin with. There is no doubt whatever about that. I had done the deed myself, agonized over the decision, chosen the tools, picked the day, performed the execution, tidied the area, and retired to my quarters for some Netflix reflection and a libation. Old Marley was as dead as a doornail. So it was with a start that I awoke in my easy chair, libation now spread across my khakis, to confront an apparition in my home entertainment room. It was gnarled, gaunt, branched, and stark. Something straight out of The Nightmare Before Christmas. And completely blocking the view of my brand spanking new mega 80-inch flat screen TV. "Who are you?" I ventured, trying to keep the conversation breezy while craning my neck to determine if I could see around the thing, and wondering just how many libations I had managed to consume before nodding off, and exactly how far back I would need to rewind to catch up with the plot line. After all, this vision could simply be an undigested bit of pepperoni, a blot of melted chocolate, a crumb of a cheese stick, a fragment of an underdone corn dog. "There's more of gravy than of grave about you," I thought, wondering how in the world that popped into my head. "Ask me who I was." Well, if you're going to play 20 questions, whatever. "Who were you then?" I sighed, perhaps a bit too obviously. "In life, I was your tree, Marley." Uh-oh. I suddenly became aware that we had an issue here. "Do you mind if I refresh my libation?" I ventured. At this, the spirit raised a frightful cry and shook its chain with such a dismal and appalling noise that I figured I'd sit and wait out the drink for a few minutes. "Mercy, mercy me!" I exclaimed. "Things ain't what they used to be. Dreadful apparition, why do you trouble me?" "Man of the cable-free mind," exclaimed the ghost tree. "Do you believe in me or not?" "Dude, absolutely, but what's with the chain?" "I wear the chain link fence you built next to me in life," the tree replied. "Do you know what happens when a tree grows into one of those things? Do you know how freaking impossible it is to separate chain link fence from xylem, phloem, and bark? These are the patterns I bore, link by link and yard by yard, girded onto me by lousy sighting and indifferent care. Is its pattern strange to you?" It was at this point I began to understand that this could escalate into a serious standoff. Okay, I feel your pain. But do you know how expensive one of those trendy wooden fences is? All of them eventually rot. And this was my first home with real trees. I didn't really know what I was doing. Besides, I was always pulled away by my business. "Business!" cried the ghost tree, shaking its branches and littering twigs and stems all over the carpet, couch, and snack tray. Horticulture was your business. Some decent pruning was your business. Mulching, watering, and a little TLC were all your business. The dealings of your career were but a drop of water in the comprehensive ocean of your backyard business. That last sentence left me scratching my head, but the spirit seemed rather agitated, and I thought it best to let it get all of that frustration out of its system. "Hear me!" cried the ghost. "My time is nearly gone. You will be haunted by 3 master gardeners." "Whoa, no," I blurted before I could stop myself. No offense, but I have a conference call first thing in the morning, and I will be going full tilt boogie for the whole week. I don't have time for that stuff. I was stunned by my own forcefulness, and so was the specter. I dialed back my energy. "I have a suggestion for Plan B," I said, trying to judge how that would play out with the specter that had invaded my rec room. "Is there a movie that you've always wanted to see?" The ghost tree swayed in the ectoplasmic breeze, contemplating my offer. "Well, everybody tells me that Groot in Guardians of the Galaxy is really cool," it said a little shyly. "Done," I replied, heading to the kitchen. "I'll make some popcorn, and you make yourself comfortable. Try not to shed on the chip dip. Marley, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship."
Ooka chaka, ooka, ooka, ooka chaka, ooka, ooka, ooka chaka, ooka, ooka, ooka chaka, ooka, ooka.
I can't stop this feeling deep inside of me.
An Xmas Carol by Mike Nowak. Originally appeared in the November-December 2018 issue of Chicagoland Gardening Magazine. And welcome back. There we go. We'll be right back with It's a Wonderful Slice. Stay tuned.